truly loves me, would he ever forgive the unforgivable? Would he fight for me, or walk away? That question, that poisonous question, would soon tear their world apart. Started with a rumor, soft, careless words that reached Zinhal's ears through a friend at the salon. Greater than, they say Loazi was seen at Noma's place, again. The scissors froze in her hand. She laughed it off at first, that awkward, shaky laugh that people used to hide the sting. But her heart began to race. Her mind painted pictures she didn't want to see. When she went home that night, the street was alive, children chasing tires, men talking football, and the smell of chakalaka drifting from every corner. But inside her chest, the world was silent. Loazi arrived late, his shirt stained with dust, his smile tired but kind. He greeted her with a soft kiss on the forehead. Yet for the first time, she didn't melt. She only stared. Greater than, where were you? She asked. At the site, we worked overtime, he said, without hesitation. The way he said it, so calm, so certain, made her doubt herself even more. Because liars sound like that. Smooth, steady, safe. That night, she couldn't sleep. Rain started to fall outside, heavy and rhythmic. And in that rhythm, a dangerous thought began to form in her mind. She remembered Sabelo, Loazi's best friend, and the way he had looked at her once when Loazi wasn't watching. That half-second glance that said, "You could have chosen me." Her anger turned into something sharp, something reckless. She wanted to know, not just believe, not just hope, no. The next day, she sent Sabelo a message. Greater than, come by tomorrow. I need to talk, he replied with a joke, as always. But when he arrived, Zinhal wasn't joking. The air that afternoon was hot, thick, and full of unspoken things. Sabelo looked confused when she locked the door. He laughed once, then saw her face and stopped. Greater than, Zinhal, what are you doing? Something I'll regret. Maybe, she whispered. It wasn't about desire, it was about proof. Her twisted way of testing the loyalty of a man she loved too much to lose. But as the storm began to roll across Soweto skies, she crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. A line that would soon break more than hearts, it would break souls. The morning after, the air felt heavy, like the sky itself knew what had been done. Zinhal woke before dawn, her throat dry, her chest aching. Sabelo was gone, only the faint smell of his cologne remained, mixing with the scent of her guilt. She sat at the edge of the bed, staring at her trembling hands. Her mind replayed every second, every touch, every breath she wished she could erase. She wanted to scream, but silence felt safer. Because once words left her mouth, they would become real. Outside, neighbors were already awake. A baby cried, a rooster crowed, someone played gospel music too loud. Lord, forgive me, the chorus kept saying. Zinhal almost laughed through her tears. Maybe God was mocking her. When Loazi came by that evening, she couldn't look him in the eye. He brought her dinner from the corner Shisanyama, his usual way of showing love, quiet, simple, sincere. He talked about work, about his plans to start his own small company someday. Zinhal nodded, pretending to listen, pretending her world wasn't already cracking. Greater than, you're quiet today, he said. Just tired, she whispered. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away, gently, yet enough for him to notice. Something in his face shifted. Suspicion, confusion. He didn't press her, he just studied her, the way you look at someone you suddenly can't read anymore. That night, when he left, she sat alone in the dark, replaying the words she had said to Sabelo, the ones that led her here. Greater than, if I do this, you can never tell him. And Sabelo, shaking, had nodded. I won't, I swear. But secrets rot, even when buried deep. They change how people move, how they speak, how they breathe. Days turned into weeks. Loazi started noticing things, missed calls from Sabelo, sudden silence when he entered a room, the way Zinhal avoided his eyes. And in the quiet corners of his mind, a storm began to build. One night, he went to Sabelo's place unannounced. The two men shared a beer, laughed a little, old memories, easy talk. But when Loazi mentioned Zinhal's name, Sabelo froze for just a moment too long. A blink, a tremor, enough for the truth to whisper its first breath. Greater than, you and Zinhal, you good? Yeah, Sabelo said too quickly, eyes darting away. Loazi smiled, but inside, something broke. Meanwhile, Zinhal was fighting her own war, not against Sabelo or Loazi, but against herself. Each morning, she woke up with the same prayer on her lips. Greater than, let it stay buried. But guilt doesn't bury easily. It talks in dreams. It breathes in shadows. She began seeing strange things. A bird hitting her window 3 nights in a row. A child pointing at her and saying, "Auntie, you crying inside." Her aunt told her, when your spirit is not clean, the ancestors send signs. You better confess before the truth confesses for you. Xinhal tried to laugh it off. But deep down, she felt watched, by something older, wiser, unseen. Then came the moment everything cracked open. One Saturday, at a neighborhood wedding, Sabelo arrived already half drunk. Music was loud, laughter louder, the smell of grilled meat filling the air. Xinhal and Lawazi danced together, trying to forget the growing distance between them. But Sabelo couldn't take it anymore. He approached them, smiling too wide, voice too loud. Greater than, Lawazi, my brother. You've got yourself a perfect woman, nay. That I do, Lawazi replied, pulling Xinhal close. Sabelo chuckled, bitter. Greater than, yeah, perfect for both of us. The words sliced through the music like a knife. People stopped dancing. The DJ killed the sound. Lawazi turned, slow, disbelief in his eyes. Greater than, what did you say? Sabelo's face fell, but it was too late. His eyes, glassy with regret, said everything his mouth couldn't take back. Xinhal tried to speak, to explain, to deny, to breathe, but her voice refused to come out. Lawazi just stared at her. His lips trembled, his hands clenched. He didn't shout, didn't hit, didn't cry, he just whispered, low and broken. Greater than, so the test was me, all along. He turned and walked away through the stunned crowd, his figure fading into the Johannesburg dusk, swallowed by music that had turned sad. And as he disappeared, the first drops of rain began to fall again. The same storm that had witnessed their love was now washing away its ashes. The rain was falling hard again, the kind of rain that didn't just soak clothes, it soaked bones. Lawazi walked alone through the muddy street, his shoes filling with water, his breath breaking into shards. Thunder rolled over the township like drums from another world, the sound of ancestors watching, judging. Behind him, Xinhal ran barefoot, calling his name. Greater than, Lawazi, please, wait. He didn't turn. He just kept walking until he reached the old baobab tree near the taxi rank, the place they once sat together and made promises under the stars. Now, those same stars hid behind black clouds. When he finally stopped, he didn't look at her. His voice came low, trembling, like someone trying to speak through glass. Greater than, why, Xinhal? Why would you do that to me? Her chest heaved, rain and tears mixed on her face. Greater than, I wanted to know if you'd fight for me. If you'd stay even when I gave you a reason to leave. He laughed, not out of humor, but out of heartbreak. Greater than, you wanted to test love. You don't test love, Xinhal. You trust it, or you lose it. Lightning split the sky above them. For a second, their faces were lit, hers twisted with regret, his carved with pain. She dropped to her knees, the mud swallowing her bare feet. Greater than, I'm sorry. I swear I didn't love him. I only wanted to see if you truly loved me. Lawazi's eyes glistened, but his voice turned quiet and sharp. Greater than, and now you've seen, I did. He knelt beside her, holding her face in his hands, gentle, trembling hands. Greater than, but what we had, it's gone. You killed it, not with Sabelo, but with doubt. A wind swept through the street, bending the trees, howling like voices from the deep. It was as if the land itself was mourning with them. Xinhal reached for him, clinging to his shirt. Greater than, please, Lawazi. Don't leave me like this. He stood slowly, looking up at the sky, eyes full of the storm's reflection. Greater than, my father used to say, when you betray a good heart, the ancestors turn away from you, until you forgive yourself. He looked down at her one last time. Greater than, forgive yourself, Xinhal. But I can't be the man who saves you from your own fire. He walked away, the rain swallowing his figure, until he vanished into the misty night. Xinhal fell forward, pressing her hands into the earth, crying into the mud. And in that moment, the candlelight of their love, the one she once thought could never die, finally flickered out. Thunder echoed again, softer this time, like a closing drumbeat. The storm eased, the sky began to clear. But the silence it left behind was heavier than the rain. The world had moved on, but Xinhal hadn't. The streets were dry again, children back to their laughter, minibus drivers shouting destinations, life beating to its usual rhythm. But inside her heart, Time was still standing still, locked on that night beneath the storm. Lawazi had left Soweto for Durban. Word spread that he'd started his own small construction company there. He didn't block her number, didn't send hate, didn't seek revenge, just silence. And silence, Zinho learned, was the loudest punishment of all. She went back to the boutique, her stitches slower now, her eyes often staring out the window. Each thread she pulled through fabric felt like stitching her own wound, one that refused to close cleanly. Sometimes, at dusk, she'd walk to that old baobab tree. The mud was gone, replaced by dust, but she could still see the ghost of that night, the kneeling girl, the broken man, the storm that took them both. Her aunt would tell her, "Greater than, child, pain is a teacher. If you listen well, it turns into wisdom." And slowly, Zinho began to listen. She learned that love cannot be tested like loyalty. It must be trusted, or it wilts in your own hands. The laughter she once shared with Lawazi became a memory she carried like a scar, soft, painful, but real. And each morning when the sun touched her window, she whispered, "Greater than, where there is doubt, love cannot breathe. Every village, every city, every heart, love is tested not by fire, but by faith." Zinho's story became a whisper among the elders, told to young girls sitting by the evening fire. Greater than, never measure love by betrayal. For trust once broken cannot be sewn again. Not even by the hands that made it. The rain came again weeks later, gentle this time, washing the dust from the streets, not the pain, but the lesson. And beneath that same sky, Zinho finally smiled, not because she forgot him, but because she forgave herself. Some say the ancestors send storms to cleanse the earth. Others say, they send them to cleanse the heart. Moral: when you test love, you lose its truth. But when you trust it, even loss becomes sacred.